Hello and welcome to Down by the Gram on Cam with me, the Grandmaster Kush, talking all things Amsterdam, coffee shops, and everything from the cannabis community. Joining me as always, I have my co-host, Beta Berry.
Hello, hello.
All good?
Yeah,
Nice
groovy.
cozy winter morning.
It is. I'm loving these podcasts.
Yeah.
We need a bit of
So, joining us today, all the way from Michigan, we've got Adam Brooks. How's it going?
Good, good.
Thank you so much for joining us.
As we say from Detroit, what up, doe?
What up, dog?
Nice.
So before we get started, I've got a word from our sponsor, 21 by 20, life summed up, so you can pick between the snapback or a beanie.
Oh, I'm a beanie guy.
Beanie guy?
Yeah.
Deadly. Ready for winter?
So 21 by
Yes.
20, life summed up. They're not on general sale, but if you want your chance to win one, you can like and share this podcast episode, and we'll and comment underneath what 21 multiplied by 20 equals, and we'll send one out to the winner. So Adam, before we get started, I'm going to ask you 4 questions in 20 seconds just to see what kind of smoker you are.
Mm-hmm.
So weed or hash?
Hash.
Sativa or indica?
Sativa.
Rolled or in bowls?
Rolled.
And what was the first coffee shop you ever smoked in?
The 420 cafe.
Oh, nice. I think
Nice.
last week we had someone, or recently we've had someone that had 420
Yeah.
as well.
Beautiful little shop.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah,
how
he was
the
a
Hasn't
friend of
changed
mine.
probably since you were there the first time.
Oh, many. Yeah. I mean, when I first started coming, that was a bar that
Oh,
allowed
yeah.
smoking and had a little
Alcohol
guy
as well,
selling
isn't it?
weed. Yeah.
Okay.
And eventually it became a
The
coffee shop
yeah.
because the law
Direct house
changed.
to choose one or the other.
And I had worked for John Sinclair, who we'll talk about later, but and he was friends with the guy
Oh,
that,
nice.
that
Owned it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was
What
like
year would that be in?
the 90s.
Okay, yeah, nice.
Yeah, we.
Different place back then.
I first came to Amsterdam in '94 as the High Times Freedom Fighter of the Year.
You were the high time?
Well, they had a group called the Freedom Fighters.
Yeah.
And the Freedom Fighters picked a Freedom Fighter of the Year.
Oh, nice.
And High Times gave them a first-class
Trip to
trip to Amsterdam
Sick.
during what was then opening up as the Cannabis Cup.
Okay, the high
It
times.
was not open to the public for the first 6 years.
Yeah.
The 7th year, it was
Launched publicly and
public.
stuff.
Yeah.
And you were the freedom
and I
fighter?
came now. Yeah. Actually, I beat Jack Harrer out.
Oh, nice.
But that's when I first came here. So I had been to other coffee shops.
Yeah.
But just like back home, I never really bought anything in a coffee
Okay,
shop.
yeah. You
when
had
I
your
first
stuff, you
got
just
here.
want somewhere to socialise.
I got stuff because of who I knew.
Yeah.
I knew people, and they had better stuff than what was in the coffee
Yeah,
shops,
and
still
much
do
cheaper.
to this day, and much cheaper.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time with the 420. And,
Yeah,
and
no, it's a lovely little
working
shop
there,
that,
and-
yeah. Has that old school vibe, you know.
It
It's,
does. Still the bar feel.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can sit up around the bar and have a
Right.
chat with like anyone from anywhere. It's
yeah,
beautiful.
and then that
for
big table down the back's nice. You just
Well,
everyone sit around it.
That used to be a pool table.
Oh, I never remember that.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
that's
well
how
before
far
my
back.
time,
Yeah. And
It looks like that kind of pool table set
Yeah.
up, that kind of big area
yeah,
at the back.
that was a pool table back there, and then John Sinclair would do blues shows there, and he was a blues poet.
Okay.
And we'd cover the pool table and set all our merch up on it.
Oh,
And
nice.
I've got photos of his whole merch display on the
That's
pool
sick.
table. One time I came back and the pool table's gone. Big
Where did we
ass
put our
table
merch?
there. No, we put it on the table, but it was like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
Not the same.
No.
Yeah, but I get a lot of people that ask, do you go to coffee shop to coffee shop and buy all the different weeds? And I'm like, first of all, I only support people who support me.
Yeah, nice.
So you gotta give me some leeway on sitting around, and
Yeah.
if I know people, I have a friend that works in a coffee shop and she's been there 15 years. I don't pay for my drinks there.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I hang out there?
Yeah, of course. That's
I
it.
meet people there.
Yeah.
If we're going to meet up,
Yeah.
meet me there.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah,
As you get to know
because-
people, you go where you know people
Where you
instead
know
of, you
people.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because
Right.
It's cozy.
Yeah.
as well
And
to
if I
walk
know the
into.
owner, I'd rather hang out in his place,
Support his
and bring
business.
my people to his
yeah,
place,
that's it.
who then spend money.
Yeah,
So
No, for
that
sure.
that to me is important.
yeah,
you know,
100%. Yeah, that's it.
because nobody. I mean, around here, when you're in a coffee shop and you watch what walks in the door, it's all walks of life.
Oh, everything.
And
everything.
nobody's treated any different.
No.
I don't even the celebrities walk
Yeah.
in and
That's it.
They don't care who
There's
you are.
nobody here. Yeah, no,
No,
that's it. The odd
in
person might
Amsterdam.
recognise them here or there,
Yeah,
but it's
now, once you become a well-known place and you have a
reputation and stuff, yeah.
and you have a PR team,
Yeah.
you're gonna have your wall of photos
Yeah.
with all the celebrities
The
that
greenhouse.
came in. Okay, yeah, I hang out at the
Yeah, I
greenhouse,
seen
so,
you there yesterday. Yeah.
But the funny thing is that when I'm there, I always take a picture of myself
Okay.
standing next to the picture
The walls, or the
next
pictures.
to the picture of Ariane and Eminem.
Okay.
Because I'm
nice.
from Detroit.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah,
everyone always, when you tell them you're from Detroit, they're like,
Eminem's the most famous.
they start asking you Eminem
There's a lot
questions.
of famous people from Detroit, though.
Well, so music is real big in
Yeah.
Detroit. Now, what you have to understand is that if for most of these people in the past, they actually lived in Detroit.
Yeah.
Diana Ross, the Motown people.
Yeah.
These were all
Alice Cooper?
never probably lived a day in his life in Detroit.
Because I remember Top Gear done a thing in Detroit, and then they just listed all these celebrities that were supposedly from Detroit.
Well, they
originally.
claim they're from Detroit,
Okay,
but they lived in cities like Saginaw, Lansing,
Okay,
East
I've never even heard of
Lansing.
half of these.
Right,
Yeah.
a place called Warren, which is right across the street from 8 Mile.
Okay.
Which is actually where Marshall Mathers, now known as Eminem,
Yeah.
grew up.
Okay.
He didn't grow up in Detroit. He's not a
Okay.
Detroiter. Wasn't born in Detroit.
No way.
All you got to do is Google his name. They
So
now
he's like
tell you.
just one step outside Detroit? Like,
Yeah, he never went to Detroit
Like
public
Amsterdam.
schools. Nothing.
That's crazy.
He's
so
a
he's not from 8
suburbanite.
Mile?
No, well, he was on the north side of 8 Mile,
Okay.
not the south side.
Not the
of 8
Detroit
Mile.
side of it.
Yeah,
That's
and
crazy.
8. When people think, oh well, he wasn't from 8 Mile, in Amsterdam, that'd be like saying you live near the Dom Rock.
Okay.
Well, you do actually,
Yeah.
but you really don't.
Yeah, you're around the corner from it. Like,
You're a distance from it.
yeah.
Where you're at.
Oh, we hear, yeah.
And you know that.
Yeah.
But you could claim you're
Yeah,
from there, and
that's
people
it.
from Detroit would
It's
understand.
close in people's mind. It's yeah,
Right.
I know
It's
that.
like
yeah.
I mean,
same.
Bob,
Yeah.
for instance, Bob Seger, he was in Ann Arbor, and
Ann Arbor's in Detroit.
it's outside of Detroit,
Okay.
45-minute drive.
Okay.
In the
It's all-
70s.
It's all in Michigan.
It's all in Michigan.
Yeah, yeah,
Michigan's the state, and then it has all these cities.
Yeah.
But you have to understand that the suburbs were created in Detroit. A lot of
Okay.
things started in Detroit.
Yeah.
The first traffic light
What? In
What?
America?
in the world.
In the
In
world?
Detroit.
They didn't need traffic lights before they had cars.
Because of your car manufacturing? Like,
Yeah, in the early 1800s when they invented the automobile,
yeah.
they needed something to tell people to,
To stop crashing into each other?
Well, prior to that, it was horse and buggy.
yeah.
Doesn't require
No, the horse will do the
Yeah.
rest. They'll pull up.
Yeah.
in most places in the world at that time were not anywhere near
crazy.
having automobiles. So yeah, the first paved piece of road, Detroit. Now there were cobblestones in Europe
Yeah.
and stuff. We're not talking about
Yeah,
that.
like
We're talking
tarmac and
cement.
stuff, yeah.
Okay.
The first
crazy.
highway in Detroit, so you could go from the east side to the west side.
Because you would have been one of the main car manufacturers.
Right, yeah,
America, if not the world, like at that
At
stage.
one point, every car in America came out of Detroit.
Yeah. And now
And-
none.
But what Detroit is really famous for is that Henry Ford from Ford Automotive Company
Yeah.
invented the assembly line.
Yeah.
That's what they're.
The game changer.
Yeah, and most people think of cars.
Yeah.
But the assembly line changed everything around the world.
Yeah. No, that's it. How shit was done, the speed, the process, everything.
School,
Totally
everything,
changed.
Yeah.
Education.
Right.
He
Everything.
built up the education.
So when you
system.
get to when you get to musicians, right?
Yeah.
Why would you tell someone you're from Oak Park?
Yeah, when you can claim
Yeah.
Detroit. Like,
Same thing
yeah.
as cities like Chicago.
Yeah.
Chicago, you're not from Chicago, you're from the suburbs.
Yeah.
But as soon as you tell somebody you're from Schaumburg, they think you're wealthy.
Yeah. Or else you have to explain where the fuck
Where-
it is to people that don't know it. Where.
Just like in cities like New York, people say, "Yeah, I live in the Bronx."
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Or people from New Jersey claiming New York or
Right.
something like. Yeah.
I like my example is in New York. People claim they're from Harlem.
Yeah.
Now you can be from Harlem. But if you're white, you weren't from Harlem
back in the day. Yeah,
when I was a kid, you weren't from Harlem if you were white.
Yeah.
Now, there were a few.
Yeah.
But, and nobody went there unless they were black.
Yeah.
Period.
Predominantly black area.
Yeah. But if you knew what good soul food was,
You went there.
you went. And nobody cared that you were there.
Yeah.
So Detroit's got a lot of that. It historically was a self-segregated city. So, of course, it's all immigrants, right?
Yeah.
Everything is in America.
Yeah, of course.
But each group lived with their own kind.
Yeah.
Why? Because they came over not speaking the language.
Yeah, they just
So they
what they knew.
Right. And different parts of the city had different communities.
The Irish area, the Italian area.
That's right. The Jews lived in one area.
Yeah.
The blacks lived next to the Jews because the Jews were willing to hire the blacks.
Okay.
But the Eastern Europeans or the Italians or the Germans, they wouldn't hire those people. They wouldn't work with either one of them.
Okay.
You know,
they had their own kind of
so it
sense.
was these self-segregated communities, which most people have no concept of
No.
and don't even
That's
think.
because it's a new world. They had a blank canvas. You
Correct.
know what I mean? That's
Correct.
why.
Well,
No one knew
it wasn't blank. They had to push these
Well, of
natives.
course.
They had to push these dark-skinned natives out of the
say
way.
We don't like we're taking your land.
We're taking your land, and you know. And oh, by the way, we're going to kick these British people out too. So we'll get rid of them. We'll get rid of them in a minute. Oh, you want us to pay tax on your teeth? Fuck you.
Oh, stuff. We're still trying to get rid of them.
Yeah. Good luck.
Oh, stuff.
But yeah, it's an interesting place. A lot of things started there.
Yeah.
I would argue the step towards legalization of marijuana,
Okay.
which is near and dear to
I
our
always
hearts, of
assumed
course.
California was the base of
No, California didn't have a clue.
that. Okay.
You have to understand that back in the 50s and the 60s, Michigan had a narcotics law that allowed them. First of all, it was a felony to possess any amount of marijuana.
Yeah.
And simple sales could get you 20 to life.
Okay. Fucking hell.
And it was outrageous. Now, that's because it was considered a narcotic.
Yeah. Class A.
So there was a guy white guy who had gotten busted in Detroit a couple times for smoking weed.
Yeah.
And he was part of this artist community.
Yeah.
And he was a forward thinker. And he said, well, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And he decides to challenge this law that says it's a narcotic.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. This is the story of a man by the name of John Sinclair. John Sinclair was the manager of the MC5,
Okay.
which is given credit for starting punk music.
Oh, nice.
And he was a radical, left-wing blues poet. He was
nice.
a poet. And they had this hippie culture type of community.
Yeah.
In the 60s, they created something called the White People's Party, which was...
Sounds controversial.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel
they
about
were
that.
down with the Black People's Party.
Okay.
And the Black Panthers, their group was the White Panthers.
Okay.
So the White
So
Panthers...
it wasn't going against them. It was
No, they were
solidarity.
the first the list of things that their tenants. The first thing on the White Panther Party was that we're down with everything and support the Black Panther.
Okay. Nice. Nice.
So they were these radical hippie types, you know, that of course the government officials didn't like
Yeah, of
because they had
course.
No,
They were-
long
They
hair.
were
and-
thinking for themselves.
Yeah.
Right. So he gets on this trip to challenge the law because he's about to go to jail.
Yeah.
And they rule that marijuana is not a narcotic, it's a euphoriant,
Okay. I've never heard it described as that.
which meant that the penalties shouldn't be as high.
Yeah.
And that starts the move towards legalization in 1968.
Oh wow.
Okay, so that we're moving towards that.
Yeah.
Of course, he was sent to prison for 2.5. He ended up doing 2.5 years in prison, and they had a big concert that had everybody. The John Sinclair Freedom Rally, it's called.
Okay.
John Lennon came, Bob Seger, Stevie Wonder. John Lennon had written a song called John Sinclair about him, and John Lennon wrote 3 songs about living human beings.
Yeah.
His mother, Eleanor Rigby, and John Sinclair.
Wow. That's it.
Yeah, that's it. So.
And this, this is I can't remember what I was going to ask there.
It's okay. No. I go.
No, go, keep going.
Yeah.
Something was going to ask John Lennon.
So all these people come and they literally create this motion, this movement.
So this was to get him out.
To get him out,
sorry,
right?
that's what I was gonna ask,
normally when you get found guilty, you are given the option to appeal.
Yeah.
And they will issue an appeal bond.
Okay.
And if you can put up whatever amount that is, they will let you out on appeal.
Yeah.
They refused to give him an appeal bond and sent him just right away to prison.
Okay.
And he fought them on that.
Yeah.
Well, this story gets very convoluted because these people also take credit for the takedown of Richard Nixon and Watergate.
Okay, wow.
Because in his court case, or while he was in prison, there was a bombing in Ann Arbor, the clandestine CIA office.
Okay.
Someone put a bomb in the doorway. John Sinclair and 2 other individuals were charged in that bombing. John Sinclair was locked in a cage. How was he? Yeah. So his lawyers are asking for the discovery, and they say that they want any recordings or anything that the government may have of these people. Because, of course, there were phone calls from prison that would have been recorded of John. So they ask for all these, we want to know what you have. And the government comes back and says, well, by presidential order, we're not giving you certain things because we consider that national security issue. And they're like, what kind of, you got stuff on us that you recorded and you won't give us?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to force you to give it to us. So they go to court. The judge, a very famous black judge in Detroit named Damon Keith, rules in John Sinclair's favor that the government has to turn this stuff over.
Yeah, has to make it public.
The government appeals that case, and now there's a court case, U.S. Judge, U.S. federal judge Keith versus the U.S. government.
Fucking hell.
And it's the very famous case.
Yeah.
And the U.S. government lost that case and ruled that the president couldn't record people with clandestine bugs.
Yeah.
And now, when you go back and you look at who all the players were that were involved, you see that future Supreme Court justices were attorneys at the time.
Okay.
Future, the players are what's important. So the court ruling was finalized and ready on a Friday, but it was going to be announced on a Monday.
Okay.
Somebody in that courthouse called the White House and said, any bugs that the president currently has, Monday will be illegal.
No way.
Somebody in the White House said, those bugs we got in the Watergate Hotel? We got to get those out of there before Monday. So Saturday, they went into the Watergate and
crazy.
took these bugs and got caught.
So, because I've heard of the Watergate scandal, it's obviously the most, I don't know the full story, but anytime you ever hear the word gate after a scandal.
Right. That's all because of Watergate. Right.
Yeah. So,
but that's one of those things that.
But because of the case with, what was his name again?
John Sinclair.
John Sinclair, that basically put stuff in motion that fucked up Watergate and got all exposed.
Exposed the president for doing what he did and the crimes he committed while in office.
That's
he was then.
Nixon was one of the worst.
He was a racist, and of course he came out with the the CSA, sorry, a little buzzed. The drug laws, basically.
Yeah, the war on drugs.
Well, he's basically started it. And
Yeah.
they've since released recordings where he talks about, we got to keep this heroin and marijuana illegal because it helps us get at the blacks and the browns.
We can turn them all into criminals, basically.
And he hated Jews too, and he had all this. He loved Jesus Christ, but so he.
The worst.
It was a real trying time in America.
Using the laws so they can pick and choose who they want.
And what happened in Michigan is because of all of this rabble-rousing that happened, the laws were overturned in Michigan. The legislature had to write new laws. There was a 3-week period where there were no laws.
Okay, free for all.
Right. And then the new laws were to take effect April 1st, 1972. Okay, which happens to be a Saturday and April Fool's Day. Which in America, April Fool's Day is a big deal. Google it. But in this city, Ann Arbor, which was very progressive, had this artist community that Sinclair had moved out of Detroit into Ann Arbor.
Okay.
And they had a couple houses that were like communes. People around town started putting up posters that said Hash Fest, Saturday, April 1st, high noon.
This is the day they were changing the laws.
High noon.
Okay.
On the Diag, D-I-A-G. The Diag is a spot behind the graduate school library from the University of Michigan. And it was like the town square of Ann Arbor because it was centrally located in the city, and all kinds of protests would happen there over the years. And this was a university town at the time. It's since built up into a city, and the university has bought every piece of land they could and whatever. But yes, it was April Fool's Day. The stoners were basically saying, fuck you to the man, as we say. But fuck you, you can pass any law you want, and we're still going to do what we do. And look, nobody gets hurt.
That's it.
So
that was the first ever?
That was the first one. The Ann Arbor newspaper, the Ann Arbor News, writes an article, hash bash, blah, blah, blah. But the headline was hash bash.
Okay, nice.
The second year, they hung flyers in town that said, Hash Bash, April 1st. And that was 1973. At that event, the state rep from that area, from the legislature, the state representative, showed up, smoked a joint on the Diag, had his picture taken and put in the paper. The legislature censured him because he did that. But what it did was it made this
public,
a news story.
Of course.
And when you're a legitimate news story, it gets put on the wire, and
they dissect it. And
all of a sudden, it's right. So in the 70s, this event was nothing more than a smoke-in on the 1st of April. And I didn't get involved. I'm 56 years old. April of 2025 will be the 54th annual Ann Arbor Hash Bash.
So you were 2 when the first started?
Yeah, right. So I know a lot about it because I got involved and then eventually became the MC for 20 years. But originally when it started, they didn't have anybody speakers. They just gathered.
Just a group of stoners.
And then eventually someone showed up with a bullhorn one year.
Started telling people.
And then, we show up later.
And was John Sinclair still locked up for the first one?
No.
Okay, he was out.
He had gotten out by then. And
John Lennon didn't come do a song around?
No. But again, at the time, there were only 2 other smoke-ins in the whole United States. There was the 4th of July smoke-in the capital, Washington, D.C., and then the Harvest Fest in Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay, and this is in the 70s now.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not like there was a Seattle Hemp Fest
Yeah, there's no
or
social media
the
back then,
Atlanta
so
Pot
it was-
Festival that the
yeah.
Black Crows played at, 50,000 people in a park.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Why? Because it was a big park, not because they had, and they announced the Black Crows would be there, not
Yeah.
because they were able to gather 50,000 people to protest.
Yeah.
But there were hundreds of people showing up, thousands of people showing up, and then in the late 80s, I was going, remember, it's on April 1st.
Yeah.
I was going 1985, 86, because I had friends that had gone to college at U of M,
Yeah.
had places to live. I did not go to college.
Okay.
I did not have a place to live. My birthday is also March 31st.
Okay.
That's a good
Nice.
celebration. Yeah.
So I would go to my buddy's place, spend a few days putting together a party.
Yeah.
We'd have a party the night before Hash Bash. We'd get up the next day, walk to the Diag,
Yeah.
and
That's sick.
right?
Beautiful. Yeah.
So I'm getting involved. Then I decide to get involved with the organization that's putting it on.
Yeah.
It's a student normal chapter.
Okay.
And all of a sudden the university starts cracking down and arresting all kinds of people at this
Okay.
event. They used to arrest one here, one
Yeah.
there. But in 73, the Human Rights Commission, which was a progressive group in Ann Arbor,
Yeah.
got elected to the city council, and they passed something that was called the $5 pot fine law.
Yeah.
And basically, simple possession was a civil infraction. You get a ticket, and it costs you $5.
Okay.
No way.
And in the 80s, they eventually made it $25 because the $5 was kind of laughable.
Yeah, yeah. I'll pay that every day.
Right. But you couldn't get a ticket. I wanted a ticket to frame on the wall.
Yeah.
Wouldn't give me one. You could
So it wasn't
smoke in front of.
official?
You could smoke in front. No, it was an actual law.
Yeah.
But you could smoke in front of a cop, and he wouldn't waste his time writing you the civil infraction.
Okay. You're like, I'll give you a tenner.
Yeah.
Right. and it's so crazy because Ann Arbor was this place where the law was different.
Yeah.
Even though state law controls, local law is enforced by the local police officers. There aren't state police officers necessarily in your community.
Yeah, no, for sure.
They work the
Like,
highways.
Federal, state,
Right.
town.
There's no federal police
Yeah, no,
anywhere.
of course. The FBI aren't coming to fucking
And it's
do-
not like a place like Holland or Amsterdam where you have 18 different levels of law enforcement that,
work together. And,
some actually are armed thugs that walk around all jackbooted, and
Yeah.
they generally deal with the violent crowd. And then there's these people in their yellow vests
they're just here
that
to help and actually keep the peace and
keep
stuff.
right, and they cause more trouble for most of us than the guys with the guns.
Yeah.
But
They're the ones who want the power. They aren't
Right,
gonna
right,
work
right,
together.
right. But Ann Arbor wasn't that. I mean, it was a cool place, but this was on state property
Okay.
where state law was in control, and the university would call the city and say we need officers, and they would come and enforce state law on the city
Yeah.
by the city police. Then, as we go into the 80s, the police say, "Why are we doing this?
Yeah. Wasting our time and our money.
Money, right? And for you, we're
Yeah.
not going to do this." The university said, "Well, then we'll get our own police force." And they didn't have their own police force. They had security guards on
Yeah,
the
of
campus,
course.
but they didn't have a police force. Well, there's federal dollars available when you do that.
Okay.
So they know what they're doing.
Let's apply for this shit.
Right, let's
Yeah.
make this. So that's eventually what happened. They then got their own police force.
And it's the college police.
Yes.
Fucking
But
hell.
they're
And how much
deputized.
power do they have?
They're deputized by the local sheriff, which then makes them state police officers. So
Okay.
they would enforce state law. And in 1 year, there was 235 people arrested. And they would do this bizarre thing where there's this huge crowd, and they'd send undercovers in. And the guy, and I noticed this because I had cameras videotaping the crowd. I wanted to figure out how they would do this because as the MC, I would see the cops walk into the crowd, grab somebody, and walk away. How'd they know to grab them? So I'm watching the video, and I see, because I watched them come and get a guy.
Yeah.
Now I back it up. Oops. I back it up and I see what happened. What happened is the guy next to him looks at him, lifts his hat in the air, puts his hat back down. The police officers walk over, through this crowd, and he points. And he's the undercover that could smell the weed and see him smoking, so he could testify that
he's in possession or whatever.
He was using cannabis, marijuana, whatever. And I noticed this. So the next year,
I see a hat going up, run.
Oh well, but because I was the MC, I could see. So the next year, I had this great idea, and it always depends. This is April, mind you. The weather. Yeah. Sometimes it's. I mean, I've been there. There's been an inch of snow build up on my head.
For fuck's sake.
There's rain, and sometimes one year it was 70 degrees.
Okay.
You get it hot.
Yeah.
Fahrenheit. Anyways, but the cops, because they're there as law enforcement, are obliterating our event because people hear that there were tons of people arrested. The numbers had started to drop over the years as it was. We were trying to build them back up. And the year after this big arrest number and watching this video, I told the crowd, on the count of 3, I'm going to tell you to do something, but don't do it until the count of 3.
Yeah.
So I'm going to explain what we're going to do. Then I'm going to remember I'm talking to stoners here, right?
Yeah, you have to break it down.
And then I'm going to count to 3, and on 3, you're going to do what I'm about to tell you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I want everybody to sit down. People started. I'm like, no. Wait for the 3. I want everybody to sit down. Just take your time. Do it gently. Make sure you take a step backwards so there's
comfortable and
there's room. You don't have to leave room for people to walk through the crowd. You'll understand that in a minute.
Oh, legend.
So, 1, 2, 3. And like a wave, from the front to the back, they start sitting down.
Except for the police.
Thousands of people. All the undercover cops had to sit down because they're undercover.
Yeah, they have to play along.
But the cops that happened to be in the crowd in their group of 4 that were trying to arrest people, all of a sudden, they're all just standing there. And there's, the next, I have the videos, just... They look stupid. And they can't walk anywhere either.
That's beautiful.
And
yes.
I actually, during the event, I said, look at that, pigs in a blanket, which is a meal.
No.
So people laughed. They thought that was funny.
Yeah, I'm sure the police got angrier.
Well, we had been having issues over the years. They were not friendly or our friend. And the funny thing is that the crowd just mellowed right out. Unfortunately, the next speaker I put up wanted to be a rabble-rouser. And he was pissed at me that I mellowed out this crowd.
He wanted to hype them all back up.
And he comes up to me after. He's like, dude, if you ever do that to me again, I'll kick your ass. And I'm like, it was fucking brilliant. What are you talking about, man? I won't put you up next after I do that. And I used to, when I did the event, I had everybody's name written on a piece of paper. I put you up based on if you got there on time and where you were you standing around me on the steps of the graduate school library, and that we kind of use it as our stage. And I'd kind of just play it by ear because I knew who you were and what you were talking about, and based on how the crowd was. So I did it on the fly. And then in between speakers, I'd make all these announcements. It's a university property. You can't smoke here. Duh. And I'd fire up a joint,
You can't smoke here.
Right. They don't allow this. But those were the type of things that this event eventually became, is a very political, rabble-rousing. If you were an elected official, I would let you speak. I didn't care who you were.
Once we got you there, get your face there.
If you were an elected guy, matter of fact, the guy that threatened me was not only a kindergarten teacher, but he was a township officer that had been elected.
No way.
And I was like, yeah, you can speak. That's the only way he got there is because he was an elected official.
Yeah.
I didn't know who he was when he first came up to me.
But then people bring the news in. With the,
Correct. It legitimizes what we're doing.
Yeah.
But in the 90s, we realized that when April 1st fell on a Wednesday or a Thursday, the crowd was for shit.
Yeah.
So we asked the crowd one year, hey, we noticed that when it's on a Saturday, like it was on a Saturday one
Originally,
year,
yeah.
but this one year it was a Saturday again, and we said, hey, what if next year we do it on the first Saturday in April as opposed to
the 1st of
April 1st?
Yeah.
Which was a twofold reason. One, it created a larger crowd.
Yeah.
Two, was a PR thing that most people have no concept about when it comes to this event.
Yeah.
Its persona is much bigger than its reality.
Yeah.
So people think all kinds of things about it that weren't true.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the word of mouth starts going,
Yeah.
the whispers and all this stuff. Yeah.
People get the fear.
Yeah.
And that way, if they hear
They
all
tell
the
shit
rest
that
and
just
stuff.
makes no sense at
Yeah.
all. But whatever. It is what it is. But by changing the date, we no longer were laughed at as an April Fool's event.
Okay, yeah.
Which, once you understand April Fool's,
Yeah.
you understand why that may or may not make a difference. Well, I actually think it makes a difference.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to make that change.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
Yeah.
And we asked the crowd. They said yes.
yeah.
It's not like they were going to say no.
No.
And we changed it to the first Saturday in
Say if
April.
you stoners showed up on the 1st of April, like, where the fuck is
Well,
everybody?
so that's interesting because as an old timer and a
Stoner.
OG, as they say, and I tell people I was a gangster long before there were original gangsters.
Yeah.
We called ourselves outlaws.
Okay, yeah. From the cowboy days, kind of.
But the no, I forgot where I was going with that.
Yeah.
Are they changing it to April 1st and Stoner showing up?
Yeah,
Well,
stoners
yeah.
showed up on the 1st
Wait,
instead of the 1st.
The
Saturday.
OGs would still show up on the 1st.
Okay.
And I was one of them.
Yeah.
That we go every April 1st.
Anyways,
At noon, and we go smoke a joint on the diag, and nobody cares.
Yeah.
Cops, once in a while, during COVID, the
Oh,
university...
you still do a 1st of April?
No, well, we still go out
That's
there.
what I'm saying, 1st of April. Yeah.
And I meet a half a dozen guys I know.
Nice.
And, we smoke
good.
one for the old days.
That's cool.
And during COVID, the campus was closed.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm still going. You're not
Even
going?
more
Don't go. I'm
Yeah,
going.
I'll go for a joint.
I walked up there, smoked a joint, said hi to the cops that were sitting there in a car on a place where there are never cars. They never bring a vehicle up there. You know
because
how
it was locked down. It was just,
yeah, because it was locked down, they were driving around the campus because there were nobody anywhere.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, but I still did it. But one of the interesting things, I started to tell it and I lost my train of thought. The July 1988 High Times,
Okay.
which is a green cover with a big ball of hash on the front,
The magazine.
the magazine cover. You have to understand that High Times had a 3-month lead time.
Okay.
So whenever you read a High Times that was new at the newsstand, you are already behind.
By 3 months, yeah. They're reporting on the summer when you're reading in fucking Halloween.
Right. So April, the story would be written about Hash Bash in July.
Okay.
I say we, the group that was putting this event together at the time, somebody wrote a letter to High Times and said, this event is the coolest event you'll ever see. We're bringing it back from it starting to die out, where people were claiming there was 5 people there. And it never got that bad.
Yeah.
And High Times started coming out, covering it, making it a news story each year. They did this for 2-3 years.
Nice.
And one year they got on top of the roof of the library. There were no drones.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
you
sure.
have to climb.
Yeah. Big, heavy cameras.
Right? And they took a picture of the crowd.
Yeah.
And if you know me, You can spot me in the crowd
Nice.
wearing my black leather jacket with big Grateful Dead hand painting on the back
Sick.
and a cowboy hat. This leather cowboy hat,
Yeah.
tan cowboy hat that I wore. That
Nice.
belonged to my father, actually, but I was wearing it. And that was just kind of my costume that I wore.
Yeah.
And I wear
You're stoner
I wear bib overalls.
Yeah.
Back then I was still in jeans
Cowboy
and
mode.
I was still in jeans and a
The outlaw.
t-shirt, but you can see me in the July 88 photo.
Nice.
By 92 I was the MC.
Cool.
And I did it for 20 years.
Yeah. So you've been doing it since 92, 22 years?
Yeah.
You've been MC? Nice.
And back then there was no internet.
No.
I used to send out faxes on a fax machine that also had 300 media outlets programmed into it. You had that ability to program a one-touch. So you could
Okay.
program all these numbers
Send
into
to
your
everybody.
machine, send it to all your people.
Send to all my contacts.
Right. So my thing was to get a news story written so that it got picked up by other news people.
Okay.
Eventually, in the 90s, the university starts denying us permits to have amplified sound because that's what you're getting a permit for.
Yeah.
And we had 1 hour. The event was only 1 hour. And they used to turn off the power on the hour. Like in the digital tape era,
Yeah.
I lost a recording because it was backing up like digital tape used to do. It would
way.
record everything, and then it would
They shut the power off.
process it, and mid-process, they turned the power off. I lost the audio of that.
wow.
Whatever. So those
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
And back in the day, it was this 1 hour of power.
So that was just an hour of you speaking, having.
Well, that was the other thing. If you were in town,
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I can give you a minute.
Okay, yeah. Everyone gets a minute or whatever.
Everyone gets 1, 2, 3 minutes.
Yeah.
That's it, because I'm trying to put as many people up.
Yeah.
And the truth is, and I say this to all the wannabe activists out there, all you need is a minute or two.
Yeah. If you
If
say
you
the
know
right
what
thing,
to say
Yeah.
and practice.
Yeah.
Go, and I have a bunch of guys who are like, dude, I'd really like to speak, and I do this and I do that. And I'm like, just get up and say what you know.
Yeah.
Don't lie.
Yeah.
Don't talk about shit you don't know.
genuine, be
Don't try to
truthful.
be energetic when you're just trying to get the facts out.
Yeah.
Leave
Oversell it or
leave all
something.
that shit up
Yeah.
to those of us that know what we're doing.
Yeah. Just get your point
Just get
across.
started.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
I had a former police officer who started a group called Police Officers for Drug Law Reform.
Okay.
Now, I don't fuck with the police,
Yeah.
period. Former officers are just as bad as current officers.
She chose the path.
And this guy got pinched between two cars on a traffic stop. And he found that cannabis helped him, and he became a supporter. And
For medical reasons.
and he joined our mix.
Yeah.
And then he starts this Police Officers for Drug Law Reform group.
Yeah.
And he says to me, man, I'd love to speak. And his logo was a guy in a wheelchair smoking a bong with a cop pushing the wheelchair,
Nice.
but with his baton up in the air.
Okay.
I
so
mean-
he's helping him, but he's still ready to beat him down for
Right.
it.
Right. So he's like, I'd love to speak at Hash Bash, but I'm like really afraid. And I'm like, dude, you were trained how to go to court and speak, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just do that.
Yeah. Do it your way.
Yeah.
Prep. You got 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Put the stopwatch down and
Yeah.
see what you can say in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And then write it down. Now, I don't let people read speeches, but write it down
Yeah.
and
Learn to get rid of the flow of it.
get what you want on paper, and you won't have to memorize word for word.
Yeah.
You'll be
a few
able
bullet points.
Just
right.
flow.
And any of us that do this for a
Yeah.
living get it.
Yeah.
This is all new.
Yeah. No,
now
for
now
sure.
we've got superstars that are sitting behind a microphone and a camera that without the internet we didn't have.
Yeah. No, for sure.
It's changed.
Of course, we got all kinds of goofballs and idiots
we've
too.
every type of idiot.
But,
Yeah, I mean,
but
diluted.
you know, that's what, like I tell people, you read it on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Don't believe anything you hear
No.
or see or read on the internet,
Yeah.
especially if it came out of my mouth. But this is the internet. I can do that.
Yeah. You can say what you want, do what you want. Yeah.
It's called the First Amendment back home.
Yeah, that's it. Freedom of speech.
But so the event itself, like I said, its persona is much bigger than its reality.
Yeah.
Now that we have legalized.
So it's recreational in Michigan?
Well, we have both, recreational
Okay, yeah.
and medical. But the way they did it was we passed medical with a ballot initiative.
Yeah.
We have, in our state, ballot initiatives where people go out, collect signatures. You collect a certain percentage based on how many people voted for governor.
Okay.
And then you have to collect that many signatures. You got to collect 30-40% more than that because they'll go through and
find people that
flag one, right.
Yeah.
And it took us 2 tries to collect the signatures. We got medical passed. People would say,
what year was that?
really? Maybe 2008.
Okay.
2008.
Yeah.
I forget what year we're in sometimes, so you have to bear with me. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to add another decade.
I was living in California in 2008.
I got to add a decade to this math. Hold on. But when we passed medical, of course, our medical program got huge.
Yeah.
The laws, because nobody knew what they were doing, there were legal shops and illegal shops.
Yeah.
The people would say to me, oh, you're trying to pass medical, you're just trying to get your foot in the door for full legalization. No, we would never do that. Fuck yeah, that's what we're going to do. Why would we not?
Why shouldn't we be? You know what I mean?
Why would we not?
Yeah. But it is, the amount of people that have tried the medical, we've talked about it, like, as soon as they're told, this is allowed now, this is legal, they're like, oh, let me try it. And suddenly they're like, oh, it's not so bad, it's not so harmful.
They need to see it on
it
the
is,
TV.
It's
and
the gateway drug to medicine.
Right.
It's the exit drug more than that else.
So,
you know what I mean? To get you off of everything else. This is...
Dennis Perone, if you know that name.
No.
Okay. He was an activist out of California. He was an AIDS activist. Real big in the legalization movement in California.
Yeah.
He's passed away. Dennis Perone said all cannabis use is medical.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Once you smoke enough weed, you'll understand that.
Yeah, no, it is.
And there were plenty of people in Michigan, and I only speak to Michigan. I know about other states, but all the laws, you have to understand, they're all different all around the United States.
From federal to state to fucking...
Well, federal, it's still all illegal.
Yeah.
But state laws are different, which when they do change the federal law, which in my opinion, and it was called, Nixon created the Controlled Substance Act, the CSA. For the Controlled Substance Act is based on scheduling. Heroin is a Schedule 1.
Yeah.
Highly addictive, no medical value, blah, 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 blah,
Just
blah.
bad. Yeah.
Opiates.
Like pharmaceuticals.
Opiates of any kind other than heroin,
Okay.
Schedule 2.
Okay, because
They have medical benefits.
Okay, yeah.
And they're, so...
They are harmful, but they are good.
Well, they can be harmful if abused.
That's what I mean. So
If
heroin's
used-
harmful and no good. These are harmful
Right.
and can do good.
And that's one of my biggest issues is that I happen to be a crippled man.
Yeah.
I've had 8 back surgeries. My spine is all metal rods.
Jesus.
I look like an erector set on an x-ray. And I am an opiate user because it helps with my pain.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
You want to argue with me that people shouldn't use opiates? I'll tell you that not enough people are dying in the United States that should be an issue.
Yeah.
So millions of people can't get pain medicine that they need. You've made it harder to get it from the doctor.
Yeah.
You count the pills and it's all computerized now.
Yeah.
Can't get your script 2-3 days early because you're going out of town.
Yeah.
I mean, that never used to be a problem.
Okay.
But now you may do all
There was
this.
so much abuse in America.
And it affects many more people that could use it than it does negatively.
Yeah.
But just like COVID, which is now fresh in everyone's mind, it took 250,000 people in the United States to die before the government did anything about it.
Yeah.
Mind you, the government at the time was a little different than it is today. Well, actually, it's going back
again.
It's back again, right?
History repeating itself.
But yeah, God bless America. But it's one of those things that as a medicine,
Yeah.
you have people who were able to get off of their opiates.
Yeah.
Were able to get
no,
off of
that's
their
the
blood
extra
pressure.
drug, like, yeah.
Right, we're able to get off their blood pressure medicines. We're
Yeah.
able to get off of their heart medicines.
Yeah.
God knows how many cancers have been stopped or tumors
Slowed down and prevented
been shrunk away.
Yeah.
We've all heard of they call them miracles in medicine.
Simpson oil.
But Rick Simpson oil or just any type of fecal oil.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who made it.
Yeah, yeah.
And the only reason I pick on Rick is because Rick was making oil in Canada using something that in America is dangerous.
Okay.
Because they make it dangerous so people won't use it to do, harmful things. They were never thinking Rick Simpson oil.
Okay, yeah.
He used naphtha.
Okay.
But
that's legal in Canada?
it's legal in Canada,
Okay.
and they don't have an additive in it that they put in it in the United States.
Okay.
So
What you mean?
they
What is
they
it?
put additives.
Now, what is the thing itself, though?
Because
The-
like, is Rick Simpson oil not like very simple?
It is very simple, but it's the so we use Everclear,
Yeah.
which is high potency alcohol.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the big thing that most people who are making oil are using.
Yeah.
He used another solvent, this naphtha stuff.
Okay.
It's just a
that's
solvent. That's
yeah.
all
It's,
it
it's
is.
illegal in America, but I think in Canada, which I'm guessing Canada probably do it safer.
Right.
So it's probably
No, well, that's the naphtha in America.
Yeah.
Doesn't it has this stuff in it that just like natural gas,
yeah.
they put an additive
the
in
added
it
smell, so,
so
we know
that
it's
we
there.
smell
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
This is the same similar type of thing. They put an
Like
additive in
adding
it for whatever
terpenes.
reason.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the only problem with when people think they're making Rick Simpson oil. You can make it different than Rick made it and still come out with the
Same kind of
process.
results and
The
process.
same process, different ingredients,
Same results.
same result.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
So I don't want anybody not to try oil.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because there is poorly made oil.
Of
there,
course.
there isn't bad
grown
oil.
weed as well, yeah.
Right, right. I mean, if you make the oil and you make it right, even if it's weak,
It will still have benefits.
and you'll still be on the couch the first time you take.
Okay, yeah.
that-
We've taken, I remember, what was it, that capsules.
Yeah.
We were
Right.
told there was 330 milligrams
Yeah.
of Rick Simpson oil in the capsule.
Yeah.
We double dropped them.
Right.
So we had 660.
Yeah, yeah.
We weren't that high off it. You
No,
know what
no,
I
no,
mean?
no, no.
It's-
Well-
we have,
Just
we have
went and got a
ridiculous
milkshake.
tolerance, so it's
My
crazy.
big thing is, how do they know that's what it was?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I always think
Did
they
they-
were all edible.
Do they
Yeah.
test it, or is it somebody who had it tested once and just uses those?
I think it's ballpark.
Or,
on it,
right,
yeah.
or
Yeah,
do they
you're
think,
going
oh
on
well,
that.
if I divide it out based on what
Yeah,
I put
rough
in,
maths.
because I have a buddy who makes capsules,
Yeah.
and I get 100 milligram capsules,
Yeah.
and I can take 2 of them, and then when I take my kids to Disneyland and I'm in an electric wheelchair,
Yeah.
I'm completely fucked up trying to
Drive around.
drive around in this thing
Into
because
people.
you know,
Knocking over Mickey Mouse.
yeah. But I'm comfortable.
Yeah, no, you're happy.
But that's
You're enjoying
the
yourself.
thing,
And my
yeah.
kids are like, "Oh, Dad's having a good time.
Yeah. He loves Disneyland.
He loves it. Yeah, I don't care. Well, you want to go? Let's go."
Yeah.
But the medicinal values of this product, which when I had first got into this scene,
Yeah.
movement,
Yeah.
and I like to say that my movement became your industry.
Yeah.
That's what I
Well,
tell
we
the industry
we
people.
say the movement's still going. It's not over yet.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean?
Some
So
people
we
think
just
it
keep
is.
moving the ball forward,
Yeah.
and anything we can do to move the ball forward is a good thing, even if it contains
Yeah.
some things that
And so we're just trying to
I
keep
disagree
going
with.
what you all did. We've said this to Uncle
The
Stoner,
war's not
to
over,
Soma,
near
to
over.
Mila. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We've had all these people that really put their life on the line, that really
Right.
had to, you know what I mean, risk their freedom, risk their livelihood, risk everything. Mila was a mother of 4. She was still growing weed.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh
That's how
yeah,
she came up with the pollinator, because she's
Right.
like, I got to go legit.
I
You know
remember
what I
those.
mean?
I remember those days.
Woman.
Yeah.
But and that's
So
the
do you
thing.
you know Mila enough?
Oh yeah.
So,
I've been coming since '94.
yeah. When would you have met Mila first then?
when I first came.
First in Amsterdam?
Yeah. When she came out to a High Times event,
Okay.
I would have met her.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known her for years. Soma, I've
Yeah.
known.
And
since
then obviously you know Uncle Stoner as well.
I knew Uncle Stoner when he had dreadlocks that were
Okay.
dragging on the ground, and people thought he was a homeless guy, like a Charlie boy here.
Oh yeah.
Like
That's
you know,
hilarious.
because he would show up And I love Bobby's a good friend of mine. I just saw him last week. Last week.
Nice.
And I love him dearly. I say this to his face, and I say this to anybody that brings him up.
Yeah.
One of the greatest, I don't even want to call it a con because it's not.
Yeah.
The game, the play that he had was this. Oh, you speak English? Oh, where are you from? Oh, when are you leaving? Oh, you leave on Tuesday? Well, hey, if you got any weed left over, I'll meet you Monday night or Tuesday morning. I'll take your weed off of you because you can't take it back.
Yeah.
And people would just give him.
Brilliant.
What a fucking brilliant move, right?
If you dare to ask, he'll
And
get,
he's a former Navy guy.
Yeah.
He had just gotten out of the Navy. He was, had his dreadlocks. He was living the life in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And, when I came to town,
So you met him here, not in America?
Yeah, I met him here.
Okay.
I knew him as a guy living, who knew where?
A fellow American over here? Like.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I've been around for a long time.
I'd love to just see the sessions back in the day with you, Soma, Mila, all just sitting around like we do now. You know what I mean? But the names you've all built up and the reputation you've all built up to see. Just to be like, if we could get a vlog or a fucking live from one of them sessions where all these were together.
Oh,
there was no document of it then back then. Like,
there were guys.
Or
do you know the name Wild Bill?
No, I'm terrible. I don't even know people that are doing
social
media now.
He's deceased, but back in the 90s, he was basically responsible for introducing the world to the vaporizing.
Okay, nice.
He had this big glass thing.
Is this the dude behind Vedampa?
That was all one group, yes.
Yeah, is this guy? Because it's the only vape you can use with medicinal cannabis.
Yeah, that's the one they have in Babas.
It's a heavy
but they were
all the same crew.
All the same crew back in the day. But Wild Bill was with Cincy.
Yeah.
And he had this glass scientific equipment.
Yeah.
And he used a heat gun.
Yeah, like a
paint stripper.
Shit,
a paint stripper.
Yeah.
And I have one of these original type models. I got it in a briefcase at home. All the foam, they cut the foam out like we do for rigs now. This was real raw, But and this briefcase holds everything, all the glass and the heat gun.
Yeah.
And he would go to events like the High Times Cannabis Cup, and he'd be there.
Like the old OG dabber kind of.
And he'd be vaping people out, and people had never seen a vaporizer.
Yeah. People come to the fairy house who've never seen it, so back then they've never even heard of it.
So it was all very, very different back then. But because I was associated with the Hash Bash, I would come to Amsterdam and tell people I'm from Ann Arbor, where I was living at the time.
Yeah.
I put on the Hash Bash. You should come over, whatever.
Yeah.
I got to meet all the right people. I knew, working with John. I worked with John Sinclair for the last 25 years. We had sponsors over here. Ben from Cincy and his kids. We stayed in their apartments that they had. We were ingrained in the
part of the community.
Sinclair stayed above the 420 for a couple of years.
Right in center.
Like in the half floor type setup.
And you obviously know Jack Harridan as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jack used to stay in my house before I bought my buddy's house.
Soma said it was Jack that brought him here the first time he ever came here. Were you there that trip?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I have pictures of me in Details magazine from '94 when they took us to the Cannabis Castle.
Yeah.
And they had entered the Jack Hare in the cup.
Yeah.
And they took us on a tour of the Cannabis Castle. They had all kinds of food spread out.
Nice.
And, I don't want to tell secrets. I'll tell. They had naked women on the table with sushi all on top of them. Oh, man. I'd never seen that before.
So seeing celebrity parties.
Yeah. And passing out joints.
Yeah.
That was my one and only run-in with Neville Schumacher.
Okay.
He was on the run at the time.
Yeah.
So that was huge in my world.
Yeah.
And I'm literally reading this magazine that I got a subscription to. And I don't know that this even exists.
Yeah.
And I flipped the page, and there I am in my overalls,
No way.
smelling a plant. And it's a whole story on the cannabis cup. And
Yeah.
but while I was there with my video camera, there was a whiteboard.
Yeah.
And on it was all the crosses that created the Jack Hare.
Okay.
And
Just
I
crushing
had
it.
my camera, and I took a picture of it.
Yeah.
They didn't. That wasn't part of the tour.
Okay. Yeah.
But I have a photo
With
of that
the
whiteboard.
ingredients nearly for Jack Heron.
Yeah, because you couldn't breed it yourself.
Yeah.
There were too many crosses.
Yeah.
It's not like we have today where it's such and such cross to such and such,
Yeah.
or such and such cross to such and such, and then that one crossed to one other.
This was
Real deep.
Yeah. Fuck.
And yeah, I ended up in the Details magazine. I bought a couple cases of those. But that was, again, back in the day, media was very different than it is
Of course,
today.
Yeah.
We used the fact that the university stopped and fought us on permits to go to court.
Okay.
We sued them 5 times in 6 years.
Yeah. Also, it raises your public awareness.
Yeah.
As soon as I file a lawsuit, I'm a legitimate story when I send out that press release.
Yeah.
And it's more likely to get picked up around the country because now the University of Michigan's being taken to court by the Hash
You've got an
Bash.
official case,
And-
the whole lot.
Right. And we were able to build it and build it and build it. And then the weather one year is 70 degrees and 20,000 people show up. And we
I'd
get
say that
snowballs
was
too heavy there.
insane.
now,
Yeah.
here's the
Even
really
rolling.
cool thing about this event. The event starts at high noon.
Yeah.
Used to go to 1 o'clock. They have since bargained with the university, the student group, and gotten
It's
more
still on the
time.
same university grounds?
Yeah, same spot.
That's crazy.
First Saturday in April
Yeah.
at high noon.
For 50, how many years?
54 will be next April.
Wow.
So the
High noon. The
You got
university.
Yeah.
more time.
now we got more time because the student group bargained with the university
Nice.
to get a couple hours.
Yeah.
But there are people that show up in town and have for years. I've heard this from many people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was at Hash Bash last year. Oh yeah, you make it to the diag. Yeah, it was pretty light by the time we got there, but we saw some people
Yeah.
and whatnot. Oh yeah, what time did you get there? Oh well, we got to town about 3 o'clock. All right, so you got to Ann Arbor, you walked around town, you smoked a joint, and then you walked to the diag. You saw that there were a few people hanging out because they hang out there all day,
Yeah.
and you consider yourself going to Hash
Yeah.
Bash. You fucking missed Hash
Yeah.
Bash.
Yeah,
you-
you were
and
late.
You
man.
see the
Yeah.
fucking cleanup afterwards.
Right, so there are a lot of people that did that.
Yeah.
Well, I contend, and you have to understand, at one point, it was so busy in Ann Arbor that you couldn't move in the streets. It was bumper-to-bumper traffic. It still is every year.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons it was bumper-to-bumper traffic was because you had guys on every street corner selling T-shirts. Eventually, the city banned vending
Okay.
2 blocks around the university diag that day
Yeah.
because it just fucked everything up.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Because these guys were selling,
we're all stoned.
and we
about it.
can't sell it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we can't sell anything on the diag.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to have vendors. They
Yeah.
don't allow that.
So just on the outskirts, on the border.
So, well, there's 15 years ago, a guy started. We used to go over to a restaurant with the freedom fighters and all that.
Yeah.
We'd go to this restaurant a block away.
Yeah.
And one year we put a band inside, and then the next year we decided we put the band on the balcony.
Oh, sick.
And then that year the cops showed up and said, "You can't do this because it's loud."
Yeah.
And the next year, a guy pulled a permit to close the street, put a stage, and that's been going on for 15 years. He's got
like a
he's got
festival,
vendors.
kinda?
It's the Monroe Street Fair. It's called.
Wow. And that's
And there's-
all from this.
But people think, oh, I went to the Monroe Street Fair and I was at Hash Bash. No, they're two totally different things.
Yeah. That's
And
the
isn't
after party.
it-
And now, I have been involved for the last 9 years
Yeah.
with a new event that happens the same weekend as Hash Bash, and it's
Okay.
called the Hash Bash Cup.
Okay.
And it's a 3-day weekend where we take over 2 hotels. One hotel has all kinds of entertainment, 80 vendors,
Yeah.
3 days worth of bands. You can smoke anywhere in the hotel except the sleeping rooms. So the lobby has a pool. It's one of those old holodomes. Holiday Inn used to build them. So it has a ballroom and all of that for vendors.
Yeah.
And we take over every square inch of this place, and it's just a big.
So now it's a whole weekend of it.
Right. So, and there are people that go to that, and they say, yeah, I can't wait for Hash Bash.
Yeah,
and I know they mean the Hash Bash Cup, not the Hash Bash.
Yeah.
And
Not the rally.
It's like people when they go to Spannabis and
Right.
they just go to the cannabis clubs. You know, they
right,
go
right.
to
They
the
go to the event. Right. It's
So,
exactly like that.
They're in there for the whole weekend of it, the whole
And
experience.
I'll tell you what I do for Spannabis.
Yeah, I've never been.
Me neither.
Okay.
So what I do for Spannabis is I come here the week before,
Yeah.
and I stay till a week after.
Okay.
And then I see everybody that came into Amsterdam and then went to Spannabis,
Yeah, they came back to Amsterdam after.
or the people that went right to Spannabis
Then hit
and then
Amsterdam.
came Amsterdam, and then right. So I get to see everybody,
Yeah.
all these people I've met over the years.
Yeah.
And of course, the greatest thing about being in a position like me, and I talk to every name you've mentioned, I've had this conversation with them.
Yeah.
It's funny because this guy just came up to you and said, yeah, man, how you doing, Jack? How you doing, Ed? How you doing, Mila? Man, I remember the first time I smoked a joint with you and blah, 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 blah. And they wander off and you're like, hey,
Who the fuck was that?
you know who that was? And they're like, no, but they obviously know me because we smoked a joint together back in.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. More people know me than I know them.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So it's nice when you can run into your buddies that you actually,
you actually know and you have history
And
with and the conversation with.
That's right. And you know, and then we get to the social media thing where, you know, I've come full circle because now it happened earlier today. I was sitting in the greenhouse getting ready to come see you.
Yeah.
My phone makes noise, as you heard it make earlier, the harmonica sound. But phone makes noise. I look at it. I don't know who this guy is, but he'd like to get together and talk about Hash Bash.
Yeah.
Oh, he's friends with Dan by the Gram.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you.
Yeah, that's it.
You know.
You know someone they know. You must be all right. Yeah.
Whatever. Who is this guy? He's been in Amsterdam for.
Yeah, nice.
Right. So these are new connections.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing is that
that's
social
it.
media. You know, I'm on live every day somewhere.
Yeah, you're always on when they come on. Yeah.
And I only do it for one reason, and that's to keep myself relevant.
Yeah.
But that also includes staying in touch.
Okay. Yeah.
And I want to stay in touch with my people.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a guy that grew up with no friends. I had horrible schooling experiences. I hated school, dropped out in 11th grade. Yeah, right. I figured, any idiot can go to college. I'll drop out, take the test, and go to college.
I got an apprenticeship.
Of course,
just left.
My family owned a retail business, and I knew I was destined for that. And which is what allowed me to become a pot activist.
Okay.
And the one thing about the Adam L. Brook persona is that is my real name.
Yeah.
And the persona is what you people see.
Okay. Yeah.
That's not me.
Yeah.
It don't matter who I am, what I am.
The activist you see. Yeah.
The fact that I don't like to leave my house.
Yeah.
I can walk around in my underwear in my house.
A lot of stoners are like that. You know?
I mean, right. And people get it. They understand that. But
now you can connect to people, smoke with people without
doing all that.
Once you keep the camera above waist level.
Well, I did a show on Periscope for 5 years. And in my title, the bottom line of my title, no pants are worn during this broadcast. And the reason I did that, and you'll understand this and appreciate it as a podcaster, is because I would get all ready and set up to do my live.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have everything with me, once I went live, I couldn't get up to get it if I didn't have any pants on.
Oh, so you forced yourself to be ready.
Right. And prepared.
Because he couldn't stand up once he sat down.
But I also never,
around him.
and part of it was I would go live at 9 o'clock in the morning. I had a game show that I used to produce. Well,
Nice.
I did.
Yeah.
And it was called Dab and Stab.
Dab and stab, okay.
And we would dab.
Yeah.
And I'm a diabetic, so I would have to take my blood glucose every morning. And in order to force myself to do it, I would go every morning at 9 o'clock in the morning and go live, dab and stab, on this Periscope app. This Periscope app allowed you to put in the comments stuff that would then allow me, as the host, to go back and see it.
Yeah.
Where most of these apps, the comments aren't available to you once it goes away.
Yeah.
So people would come in, throw up their number that they thought my blood glucose would be, and the person closest would win a prize. Well, if you were 2 off, you would win a prize. If you were 1 off, if you were boxed, meaning you had the right numbers but the wrong order, you would win a prize. And if you were exact, you'd win a prize.
Okay.
The exact prize was like a nice T-shirt.
Other
things, the other prize, the 1 off was a pin, and then the box was like stickers. I mean, all kinds of shit.
That's cool.
And I would do it every day because I hated having to poke my finger.
But you made a game of it.
And I made it, right. I made a game show of it.
Yeah.
And then I would try to get sponsors to just give me money so I could
You
pay
also
for the
raised
postage.
awareness of diabetes
I
and
was
stuff.
literally thinking that you probably had a load of diabetic stoners.
Oh, I had all kinds of people.
Literally,
Yeah.
you would-
We would talk about it.
Diabetic following, and then if stoner following, and
Right.
then the diabetic stoner following.
And I was
Right.
like, I feel safe.
We would talk. People would talk about crazy stuff. I did all kinds of crazy
we do
interviews.
something similar on the live. One of the guys that does it with Dunk on Dank. When he leaves here, he'll get the scooter home, but he'll join us and live stream himself scooting through.
Right.
So we do a thing. Guess how much? Because the rent is you pay as you go scooters. It's like 33 cents a minute. So we used to be like, guess how much this ride's going to cost them.
That's
so
great.
everyone's in the comments, 8.50, 8.45, and everyone figured out that it was 33 cents a minute. So you just have to multiply it. So we've now changed it to guess the exact time it's going to take them. So is it going to take them 8 minutes, 54 seconds, 9 minutes?
That's
so
funny.
the whole comment section is, and then we're all just watching him scooting back, and then he gets off. It's like, okay, the answer is so.
But
something similar.
Those things are funny. My wife gives me a hard time because she says, "Oh, you'd rather be live with your friends," and I'm like, first of all, those are not my friends.
Yeah.
Those are the people that are part of my world.
Yeah,
And,
part of the community.
and you're a square, so you don't understand this, but and she
Gotta
doesn't.
be a straight shooter.
And you know, my kids think that I would rather spend time doing the lives than with them, and I'm like, no, you just gotta knock on my
also
door.
square.
You gotta knock on my door when you come in, because I don't smoke in front of you. I don't even
How
tell
old
them.
are the kids?
9 and 12.
Okay, I was going to say
pants
he's smoking. Yeah. Daddy's got no pants on. Don't come in.
They don't care. But and that was always my thing, because it was 9 o'clock in the morning. I hadn't put my pants on yet.
Yeah. Roll out of bed.
Right.
You know.
Oh, sometimes I would literally. I had an alarm at 8:45, and I had to literally roll out of bed, put on a shirt. Every day I had to wear a different shirt than I wore yesterday because I'm live, and that's how I could see when I'm scrolling through.
Yeah, which one was which?
Right, and my kids, they're like, well, my son, now that he's 12, he's starting to get an attitude. You'd rather be live with your friends. No, I'd rather play with you, but in order to play with you, I got to do this a couple hours a day.
Got to keep the other thing going so I can have the normal life after.
Right. So it's been fun. I mean, it's been an adventure.
No, it is cool. And the people, like, I go live and I nearly have the same 20, 30 people from the minute I go live every night. You know what I mean? And you build that community and that kind of, it's crazy.
It's been getting stronger and
Yeah,
stronger
for sure.
all the time.
Like
last week we had an event in Havilar on Thursday, and like one of the rooms was like all
halfway
people
chat.
from,
You know what I mean? There was people over from England, from Wales, from Ireland.
To know
and
that
at the
you
one
have
table,
this
it was literally
space,
halfway live chat. We'd some of them meeting for the first time. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
That stuff is cool. The meetup thing is really cool.
Yeah.
I haven't yet. We're gonna do it for next year, but I was gonna push the Hash Bash Cup as a meetup place for Instagram folk because,
nice.
and I'll probably create some sort of commemorative pin or something.
Yeah, nice.
And you know,
cool.
come see me for your meetup pin. You know.
But even just if people from the chat, to get them all together, because like in our chat, they're chatting to each other.
Right.
So not only do they know me, but now they're all like, oh, someone shows up, like everyone's hey, or they're leaving, like, oh, have a good night.
Right.
So everyone knows each other through this kind of thing. You know what I mean? So it'd be nice to have something where they could, not just to meet you, but to meet each
it's not
other
about
and
me.
all,
Right. It's really not about meeting me.
Yeah.
It's about getting together as a group.
As everyone that we've kind of
having
built.
people to smoke a joint with.
Yeah.
Like we even come from Ireland, where it's like still heavily illegal.
Yeah.
Right.
So you're smoking down the back field or when everyone's gone to bed and that kind of thing.
Sneaking off and having your own joint by yourself.
So literally just the fact of being able to sit around with people with peace of mind, smoking a joint in coffee shops on the street.
Instead of being the one-off stoner, now you're in the group of stoners. Like
and that's what I tell my wife. I'm like, listen,
you're a square.
You've known me since you were a little girl. I'm married to my best friend's sister.
Okay.
So she's my second wife. Second set of kids I have. I got young kids. I got older kids.
So do your older kids smoke?
No. Well, my son did until he started to have some mental problems and figured out that maybe it
wasn't for him.
Right.
It's not for everyone, but you know what I mean?
No. And my daughter, and I love saying this, my daughter actually works for a sheriff's department in their dispatch. She's a corporal, and she can't smoke and doesn't. She never has. But whatever.
And what does she think about what you're still doing? Is
she's a fan of her dad.
Okay, but has she been corrupted by their way of thinking? Or
no, she knows.
She's still open-minded about the whole thing.
She knows. I mean, she was raised in Ann Arbor. Yeah. She knew that.
She's seen it all.
Yeah. And when she was in the second grade, her teacher held up the newspaper and said, "Hey, Molly, your dad's on the front page of the paper."
Okay.
And she came home and asked. She came home and was like, "Dad, what's hash bash? And why were you on the front page of the paper?
Why are you famous all of a sudden?"
I'm like, "You're in the second grade. Hash bash is just a protest. Don't worry about it." Yes,
just trying to do some good in the world.
Right, and it's cool.
But it's nice though. I always appreciate when I see parents that like
are open.
Yeah, like. Keep your stuff away from them. Keep your eddies up, all that stuff. But I think
don't
just
lie
normalize
to them,
it.
yeah.
And like the amount of parents that heavily consume cannabis, that their kids afterwards aren't arsed to smoke.
Right.
Because it's not a big thing.
Right.
Whereas if it's taboo, if it's hidden. Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure, you're speaking on that earlier. Yeah.
Do you want a Coke or a Fanta?
I'll have a Cola, yeah.
You know, our Fanta's different back in the States.
Yeah, yours is yellow. Oh, no, wait,
it's
more
orange.
Yellow, more
orange,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
it's because of those dyes we talked about.
Okay. It's like your cereal aisle over there. Like, you come to the cereal aisle here, you find 6, 7 options.
Right.
Over there, you've got a fucking wall from end to
So
end.
when I turned 18 and moved out, actually I was 17, but when I moved out of my mother's house and I had my own apartment, the very first thing I did was go to the grocery store. And I bought 1 box of every sugared cereal that I liked that my mother wouldn't allow in the house. And
it's such a fucking new house, you know what I mean? You've got a deck chair, and fucking probably just a little wireless radio back then.
But I got 30 boxes of cereal.
1 bowl, 1 spoon. Yeah.
And I tell people there's only 3 servings in a box of cereal.
Okay.
Because you're using a mixing bowl to eat out of.
And a ladle.
And the refills.
That's right.
Oh,
you always refill until the milk's gone, right? But yeah, that.
Love that. Best.
Yeah,
but yeah, my kids.
The best for stoners. It's just
I never smoked in front of either group of children.
Yeah, we're always open about cannabis in general.
I wouldn't. I just didn't bring it up. I wouldn't lie to them. My son once told my wife that he saw me smoking a white cigar outside. 'Cause with my first wife, I could smoke cigars as long as I was outside.
Okay.
My second wife doesn't like the cigar odor at all.
Okay.
My clothes, my hair, whatever, my beard,
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
Cigars are.
I still smoke them when I go to Vegas and shit like that. But by the time she sees me, I'm good. But I always had a room where I smoked, or in the back of the house or whatever, and I never smoked in front of them. They were little. You could hear their feet come into the room, but I would have put it out by the time they got there. And when they were real little, they didn't notice there was a
cloud above their heads. Like a fire, they were too long.
Right. Now, my youngest daughter, who's 9, when she was about 3, she walked in the house, and I heard her say to her mother, "Dad's home."
I can smell him.
Right.
Yeah.
And now they go to events out in public that are sponsored by dispensaries, and they have these
trying to get these smells.
They have these use areas that are sealed off, and you can't see in. There's no public use allowed.
Okay.
So you can't be able to see them from public.
Okay. Yeah.
But people are morons in America, and they think that because a weed dispensary has sponsored the event, that they can just walk down Main Street at this street fair smoking a joint.
Yeah.
And supposedly my wife has texted me, boy, a real strong smell of weed. And she says that the kids will say, yeah, it smells like Dad.
That's hilarious.
And my oldest kids, I always figured someone in high school, they were athletes and stuff, and I always figured that someone in high school would ask my daughter to come smoke a joint with her.
Yeah,
and she'd say no.
Together.
She'd say no.
Okay.
But I'll come hang out with you.
Yeah.
And then they'd light it up, and she'd go,
this smells very familiar.
yeah, my dad does that. You know. So, but that never happened to
my
him.
dad smokes.
Right. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm open with my kids. I'm not one of those people like many activists are, who told their kids, this is my medicine, don't touch my medicine. It's no different than any other medicine you wouldn't touch.
Yeah.
Well, why would you don't tell them not to touch the medicine in the medicine cabinet or your pill bottles that are next to your bed. You don't tell them to touch that.
Yeah.
So why would you tell them not to touch your weed?
Yeah. You're having to go extra on this. You
now,
know what I mean?
the edibles, that's a different story.
They're
because
very tempting.
they don't know.
Yeah.
And you know, we have a problem where wherever they've legalized or decriminalized or licensed weed, they now have numbers going up of hospitalizations of children who ate a bunch of gummies that someone brought to school, or you know, and there's no negative outcome.
Yeah, no.
But they come to the emergency room.
They're asleep for a day or two.
You don't know. It's quite scary.
Yes.
When the child's just pure.
Yeah. Or even an adult when you see, like, I have people pass out at my coffee shop and their friends or girlfriends or husbands are like, what the fuck? These people are like maybe getting sick, going into convulsions, and I just go over calmly every time, like, happens all the time. Their blood sugars just drop. They just need this drink. They're gonna be fine. And next thing you just see them sit back and they're just smoking it. Their loved ones there beside them. They're like, oh, he's fine, is he? Okay, that's grand then. You know what I mean? But
it is the fear, the panic.
Oh, it can be like, I've literally had people like this on the scene.
Oh, yeah.
If you've never seen your best friend or your wife or your husband do that, this is a scary moment for you where they've passed out. Like, they're dead. They're like, they're not dead. You know what I mean?
And you're like, is this the time?
Yeah.
It's interesting because the government types back home will talk about how, you know, adults leave their edibles out or whatever, and the kids take them.
Yeah.
Or worse, they don't leave them out and the kids steal them.
Yeah.
Well, It
happens with alcohol too. You know what I mean? Like,
literally.
I used to raid my parents'
Our alcohol cabinet was floor
no lock, no nothing. You know what I mean? So
and that was the norm, but you never touched it.
And then you see your parents drinking all the time. So and they're not like, don't touch my cabinet. You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh, what's this? So it can happen with anything. I mean, and in America, people leave their guns out. How many times do kids get a hold of a gun and bang, bang, playing with their little brother and stuff like.
And that's interesting because I would think, I mean, I did with my children back before I couldn't have guns, but that's another whole story. But I instructed my children, as I do with my switchblades, my automatic knives.
Yeah.
A, you're not to touch it.
Yeah.
B, if you have to touch it, here's how it works.
Okay.
So when my kids got old enough to be able to pick up a pistol, I made sure they knew the difference between a revolver and a semi-automatic.
Okay.
This one, you got to do something. This one, all you got to do is pull it.
Okay, so one of them can go off when it push.
So you never put your finger in this spot. Yeah. You only pick it up like this by the handle. If you have to, and you should never have to, because I'm never going to leave it.
Yeah, in the very unlikely event that it's like this, but
my knives, my children have been taught never touch the button.
Okay, yeah.
And there's always a button.
Yeah.
So be careful. And my kid comes to me with my knife on her hand.
Yeah.
Here, you left this in the bathroom. Well, it's one of my knives. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
It's not, I wouldn't leave a gun around.
Yeah. No,
you know, but yeah, the one downfall of becoming a well-known activist was eventually I ended up getting my house raided.
Okay, of course.
Because
another well-known
activist had gotten arrested, and they had sold me 20 pounds, and this was brickweed, and they wrote in a notebook the address
for fuck's sake.
and the amounts that they had collected from me and the address where we met.
Jesus Christ.
And the guys that raided me were from a neighboring community, and they said that they got some confidential information. Well, the only way they could have gotten that from that community is because I met the guy in a restaurant in that community.
Yeah.
So I knew exactly who and why. And it took a year and a half after they got arrested in Nebraska to finally get that information back to my local people, who at that point, I guarantee you, put my name in the computer and saw who I was.
What you been doing.
And realized that in America, all they have to do is go collect my trash.
And then you can get your evidence. And
at that point, we had medical marijuana.
Okay.
I would throw things in the garbage because it was, to me, I'd consider it medical waste.
Like you throw out your packet of tablets when they're done, like,
whatever. If it was bad weed I got that I didn't like, I'd throw it away. So they found evidence of smoke, of weed. That got them a warrant to come in the house.
Yeah.
They found some guns.
Okay.
My dad had passed away. I inherited his guns. My sister didn't want them, so I wasn't going to let them go. Right. I gave them to my wife.
Yeah.
They're yours. They're not mine. I'm a felon from a previous gun charge.
Okay.
And I got to get that taken care of, and I didn't.
Yeah.
And they raided my house, found some guns, even though I wasn't home.
Yeah.
Still my house. I still have control, access, all that. So I was charged with a gun crime because they didn't find enough weed to make a weed charge.
But you had a medical license then.
Didn't matter, right?
Didn't matter?
No, because having the medical license doesn't prevent sales and doesn't allow for sales.
Okay, if you had a large amount.
And they were looking for a large amount.
They were hoping that 20 pounds was still going.
Yeah, right. Or that I was that kind of guy.
Yeah.
And I wasn't that kind of guy. I just had the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
So I did 2 years in prison from October of 2011 to 2013.
Okay, what prison?
Actually, Jackson. What's left of Jackson, a place called Parnell.
Okay.
The Jackson prison in Jackson, Michigan, at one time was the world's largest walled-in prison.
Oh wow!
They built these cell blocks.
Yeah.
That there were like 13 of them, I think. That created this huge wall.
Yeah.
And that was the prison.
Yeah.
But many of the buildings had become dilapidated.
Okay, so there's only a small part of it left.
The small part of it left, right? Yeah. So I was in that, and it was a low security. I mean, minimum security. Yeah. Most of the guys there were getting out in 2 to 3 years. Okay, I mean, my best friend had done.
Did you get weed in there?
No. Well, yeah, you could. Yeah. So they banned smoking cigarettes in prison. Once they banned smoking cigarettes, it made it a lot harder
to get away with smoking joints.
Because you couldn't have cigarette lighter. You couldn't have papers. You couldn't have whatever.
Yeah.
The interesting thing in prison was word got out who I was.
Okay.
And I had people coming to me. Now, prisons are very segregated based on groups.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's racial. Sometimes it's religious. Yeah. Sometimes it's sexuality.
Okay. Whatever's going to kick off to keep them separate. Yeah.
So I had the gay guys. I had the white supremacists. I had the black guys.
The Mexicans.
The Mexicans. The Native Americans. All saying to me things like, hey, man, we got weed coming on the compound. Yeah. I'd like to get you high.
So the one thing all these different nationalities, races, religions all had in common was they like to get high.
Right.
You were the common
thread. Because they knew who I was. Yeah. The problem was, if you get caught testing positive for weed.
Oh, they test you, no?
Well, I was getting opiates while I was in prison.
Okay.
So they were testing to make sure I was taking the opiates.
Okay.
Because I could have been cheeking them and then selling them.
Okay.
They used to crush them, and but every once in a while they would drug test me to make sure that I was on the drugs they were giving me.
Drug test to make sure you're on drugs,
right?
Not to make sure you're not taking drugs.
And if you tested positive for illicit drugs, they would take away your visits for 6 months.
Oh, 6 months.
Yeah, and my wife was coming every weekend.
Yeah,
and She was 48 years old when I was going away to prison. We knew I was going away to prison. She had never had any children. She didn't want to be 50 when she had, or she was 38, excuse me.
Yeah, I was going to say
48. Another decade got fucked up on. She was 38, didn't want to be 40 when she had her first kid. So we knew I was going away. I had just gotten over cancer and radiation. They said, you got 3 months, you got to wait, and then after that, you can make a baby.
Okay.
I had 3 months. She got pregnant the second month. So when I went to prison, she was pregnant.
Yeah.
So she would come every Saturday to visit, sometimes even during the week. She could bring in $20 in quarters. I would sit and eat out of the vending machines like you wouldn't believe for as long as that money lasted.
Yeah.
Then they made me a diabetic in prison because it's nothing but carbs and crappy sugared food.
So that's where you end up getting your diabetes.
That's where I got the diabetes.
No way.
So I would eat all this junk in the visiting room, and then I'd go sleep it off in a diabetic coma in my cell.
Yeah.
So because she was coming, I didn't smoke weed while I was there, but I would go be the lookout so these guys could get away with it.
Okay.
And they thought that was cool.
Yeah,
Word got out that, hey, he'll watch
Yeah.
in the unit or outside on the yard,
He's
whatever.
still an activist in here.
Yeah. I had a lot of fun while I was there. I made the most of it.
Yeah.
But, the whole time I was there, I didn't smoke no weed. And I was thinking the last night, maybe I'll get a joint and
Celebrate.
yeah, and I was like, fuck that. I'm locked in a cage. I'll be paranoid as can be. I'll be freaking
You
out.
end up getting yourself in solitary. You won't get out for 6 months.
Well, that's the interesting thing. I got what was called a 2 flat,
Okay.
which meant I had to do exactly 2 years.
Okay, there was no less, no more.
No less, no more.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, one of those 2 years was a leap year, so I did a day longer.
Oh, motherfuckers.
Yeah, I did a day longer than had I done it any other
Yeah,
time
that's hilarious.
in the 4 year between leap years. But so I didn't smoke weed the whole time I was there.
Yeah.
She started bringing when my baby was born.
So you missed the birth, obviously. Then.
Yeah, they wouldn't let me out for that. I tried. I
applied for.
They turned me down. I was willing to pay guards to take me to the hospital.
Yeah.
And
just
shackle me up and chaperone me. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just to be there.
Just to be there, right? I'd already had 2 children and been at their births, so I figured, how do I not?
Yeah.
I'll do everything I can to try to get there.
First.
And this was her first,
Yeah,
right?
You want to be there for her.
Right. So she hustled the birth certificate and got it and showed up in the prison when the baby was 11 days old. Like she hand got it from the clerk at the hospital, took it to the city clerk, got it stamped.
So you could sign it?
So she could sign it.
Yeah.
Didn't matter as long as it was issued to the parent. And then she needed it to get the baby into the prison.
Oh, you could then bring the baby in, okay.
Right.
So within 11 days, you got to see the baby?
I got 11 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
She's
I actually,
Superwoman.
She's absolutely amazing. The cool thing is I actually got to see my son take his first step because she would walk him in. The guards loved him. He was a beautiful baby, and they didn't have babies around
and they
as
get
much.
to see him grow up every week.
Right. Every week it was a different thing. And she would walk him in, and when he was standing, she would set him down, and he would stand there for a minute, for whatever. I wasn't allowed to get up, of course.
Yeah.
We were prisoners had to be seated, but he would look at the guards, and the guards would wave to him or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, one day she sets him down, and he takes a step. And I got to see it.
She said he'd never taken it.
He had never taken a step before, so that was kind of cool. But.
There was no camera phones back there to capture that. So
the cool thing was, the rule said, and in prison it's all about the written rule to the letter.
Yeah.
The rule said each person is allowed $20 to bring into the visiting
kid
room.
could bring in $20 too.
Yeah. So my newborn baby showed up with his mother and $40 in quarters.
So the vending machine got cleared out that day.
I had it was a long.
And how long could they come in for?
Well, as long as she wanted, during the visiting hour. And she'd have to leave the visiting room to take the baby out into the lobby to breastfeed him.
Okay.
And then at one point we had a problem with the administration because they said they don't want her breastfeeding in the lobby. She can breastfeed in the bathroom. She says, I ain't breastfeeding in the bathroom. Why can't? And Michigan actually has a law that says you can breastfeed inside any state building.
Okay.
She got the captain. They started an argument, you know, and it's
Legend,
like a whole big thing. And she's like, and his point, he had a valid point. His point is, I have porters that come out to this visiting room to clean and empty the trash that are inmates.
Okay.
And if one of them sees your tit and goes back to your husband and says, hey, I just saw your wife's tit.
Yeah, it could cause a whole
a problem.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sir, you need to understand that everybody on this compound has seen my wife's tits. That next time you're in my unit, stop by. I'll show you the photo album. And he knew exactly what I was talking about. My wife used to put on pasties because you couldn't show any nipples or genitalia.
Yeah.
She'd put on pasties. She'd sit appropriately and take, you know,
for you in prison?
For me in prison.
Legend.
That was the old.
And the fellas would love it.
Yeah.
And the guards.
Long before OnlyFans.
Right. Oh, long before. And the guards would shake my cell down and they'd start going through your photo albums to see if you had anything stashed in there.
And this just barely made the cut.
They're all legal photos because they had to come through the mail room.
Yeah.
So somebody else already approved them.
Yeah. So everybody's seen your wife.
So yeah. So I'm like, Captain, everybody's seen my wife tits. It's no big deal, but I understand your issue.
Yeah.
But I believe that our rights trump your issue.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And I'd hate to make a big deal about it because you're a nice guy, big black captain, really nice guy.
Yeah.
Which.
This is the prison warden.
No, he was just a captain. He was.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's 4:20 our time.
4:20.
Yeah, I'm in the weed game. Of course, my alarm goes off.
Nice.
It goes off at 4:20, 7:10, and 10:20.
I'm starting a new one now at 9:20. It's 21:20.
Right.
So it's a new stoner time. It's 21:20.
But I got it going off. So I know when it's 4:20 in Amsterdam also back home.
Yeah, nice.
Because I know what people are doing. I know, it's time to make the phone call because he's home now. Or whatever, so.
That's how we do our lives. And like last night we even done it. We stayed live till 4:20 here.
Right.
And then like I put a little banner at the bottom, almost 4:20. Get your joints ready. Then an hour later we're still live, so I have a banner saying almost Irish 4:20. Right. And a lot of our viewers are Irish or English, and they're on a different time zone. So. That's funny. 2 or 3 420s a day, you know.
But one of the neat things, just to get back to the prison thing, one of the neat things about weed in prison and being who I was, these guys would come and invite me, and I'm like, listen, I appreciate you, I'll be your lookout, but as an activist, I got some questions.
Yeah.
How do you get this shit in here? And I learned some very interesting ways.
Well, some people come out of jail better criminals than they went in, you know what I mean?
I didn't know how to make a lighter with a battery. I learned that.
I've seen that, the 2 bits of metal or something.
Yeah, they would take the metal out of the screen out of the window because it's just pieces of metal that are wires, a screen. And they'd connect it on
into a piece of paper and poof.
Yeah. That was brilliant. That was like
No.
Oh, it's a 9-volt battery.
The top and the bottom is positive, negative. If you can get 2 bits of wire and then just tip them off a piece of tissue, that will cause a spark enough to maybe make a flame. You know what I mean?
Oh, sometimes you can get them batteries. Well, you can get those to heat up like a coil.
Okay.
And if you have a heavy enough piece of wire, it'll be like a coil, and that thing gets bright red, and you can touch anything and burn it.
Nearly got a fucking vape fucking thing. You know?
Yeah, vape.
Torch
I can't remember the name of it.
No, what those the glass rods that they use.
That's what I was thinking of.
I know exactly.
But I've seen that in some Louis Theroux or something, just the prison lighters. It's genius.
But I was asking these guys, how do you get this in? Oh, I have a buddy that got a job working for the company that sends in the secure packs.
Okay.
You can order.
You got to get to the guy on the inside as well.
And then the guy that receives them knows to look for such and such a box.
Yeah, and we give him a few quid.
Everybody gets
grease some pans and everything.
That's right. Oh, listen, I had some great scams going because I was handicapped. My cell was on the main floor.
How long have you been on the cane? Like when did your back?
So my back's been. I've had problems since I was 18. But,
I thought it was.
I used to walk
older.
when I'm not as old as I look. First of all,
No,
I'm only 56.
older,
But
like,
I know, but I used to come to Amsterdam and walk for hours.
yeah,
I'd stay at the Winston
yeah.
on the Warmerstraat.
That's the first place I ever stayed.
Okay.
Lucy's.
So I would stay
Oh,
there. I would.
Before we moved,
I would stay there,
spot.
and mushrooms were legal here at the time,
Yeah.
and I would take, coffee shops close at midnight. I'd go back to the hotel, grab a snack on the way to the hotel, right?
Yeah.
One of the late night places. Eat an eighth of mushrooms and go walk around the red light for 2.5 hours, 3 hours.
The lights
And that's all I was doing was looking. I'm not a red light guy, so I just looked around,
Them colours, them lights on mushrooms as well. Like it's fucking.
And it's a different energy in the red light.
Totally different. And
like in a
I think I'd
beautiful
freak out.
way.
But
On mushrooms, I'd freak out.
25 years ago, it was.
No, the other people. Fuck the tits.
25 years ago, it was very different than it is today.
100%.
And
it's all cleaned up now.
Yeah, and it's less
not
touristy,
as-
and it's.
And less women.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot less women in the red light district.
When they pushed out the gangsters, that killed like a third of the red lights.
Yeah.
Same thing with the coffee shop.
Because they were like also as well pimps.
Yeah.
but as well
Now it's more
security
independent
guards.
women and stuff.
Right. Well, then it switched right to what it is now.
Yeah.
And,
Like it is better for the
And a
women
lot
overall.
less
Like,
Oh, of
locals,
course.
like a lot less Dutch.
Right.
You hear a
No.
lot of the Dutch even saying that. There's not
If you
as
see a
many.
Dutch woman in the window, she'll have a little sign
Sign.
saying
Yeah,
Dutch. You know what I mean?
right.
Like homegrown. You know what that? You know what I mean? Not that import over here.
It's mad, isn't
But
it?
over here, the homegrown is probably more expensive than the import.
Oh, I'm sure. But it's taller. So. But yeah, I mean, that was my thing back in the day, was to wander Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I used to walk instead of taking the tram.
Oh yeah.
And then
I don't even I don't have a bike. I walk everywhere.
But then I learned the tram system and went, oh well, I'll just get a card.
Yeah.
And
trams, metros, buses, trains.
And back in the day, you didn't have to pay.
Oh yeah, just
it was the honor system.
Okay.
And if they didn't have,
had no honor.
No. if they didn't have somebody stamping.
Yeah. I'm the same. If there's nobody at that box,
Whoop.
beep.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's.
So it was cool. But now I use a motor scooter everywhere I go.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, so can you just mill up and down the bike lanes?
No, but I'm a tourist, so I do.
Yeah.
I
Play
think you
dumb.
can.
In the street, those bike lanes, but you can't take certain bike paths.
Oh yeah, you can't go out onto the busier
oh, wait,
ones.
do you mean like a moped?
Yeah.
I thought you meant a mobility
No.
scooter.
Oh,
Ah.
yeah.
As long as you're next to a street, my theory is I can ride on.
Yeah,
it.
I get the electric scooters, then pay as you go ones, and I definitely go in bus or bike lanes I'm not meant to be in, but I'm a foreigner, you know what I mean? I play dumb, you know what I mean? So, I didn't know about that, officer. Sorry about that.
Sorry,
I won't do it again.
I got stopped
tomorrow.
once without my helmet.
Yeah.
And
that was for a long time. There was only recently helmets
right,
are
and that's what I told the guy was, well, I was told with this license plate I didn't need a helmet.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, you got to wear a helmet. The law changed.
Yeah, like, oh, sorry,
I said, sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah. I just got back.
Right, when I was here last time, it was, and he's like, yeah, you can either walk it or have someone bring you a helmet.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't walk.
Yeah.
I'll have someone bring me a helmet. He said, okay. And I feigned a phone call.
Yeah, he walked off.
He walked off.
Yeah.
And I waited 5 minutes and I took off. Went to the Albert Heijn and I was done for the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, and
how what do you rent the scooter?
Yeah, I got it.
So just like for how long are you over?
2 weeks.
So
This
just
time,
rent
2.5
for 2
weeks. This
weeks.
time. Yeah.
How much that cost?
Oh, I can pay anywhere from $35 to $45 a day.
Okay, it's not bad at all.
No, I mean I it's worth it to me to pay a little more.
It's like a car rental, but it's more convenient. You
Much
know what
more
I mean?
convenient, and I know the city well enough that I know how to get where I want to go.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily need a mapping program.
Yeah.
Plus, on a scooter, the mapping program's useless.
Yeah.
Because it'll take you the way of the auto car.
Or the bicycle.
Well, the bicycle, now you're on paths that you don't belong on.
Yeah. So you're either on the car one where you could be getting there quicker, or you're on the bike one where you shouldn't be at all. So it's kind of, there's no scooter route.
You can't go through the Rembrandt plane, right?
Yeah. I have, but you can't.
Right. So I go to the block before where the sign says up ahead, no.
Just near Family First there.
Yeah, and then I make the left to get back to like the Roken, and then I go in.
That's the way I have to come home as well. Yeah.
You know,
I even went through it one night. I done a time lapse of my 360 cam, and then the Dutch guys goes, you know, you're not allowed to go through Rembrandt. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going through there every night. He just seen it on my time lapse. Goes, you're not allowed to do that. I was like, okay. Yeah. I'll take the other route from now on.
I used to do the camera thing. So have you ever eaten at the bacon place
in Jordan?
Is that where that is?
I don't know, the crispy bacon sandwich.
Yeah, crispy bacon place.
Yeah, it's in Jordan.
They're gone. I went by there today to get sandwiches. The guy that had the pile in the window. Yeah, number 3, whatever the street is. I forgot.
I lived, like, it's near you can see the Anne Frank church around the corner.
Right.
I lived, so this is the street here. The bacon guy was here. I lived there for like a year. I remember.
I stayed in a guy's place on the Prinsengracht, his house. The house I was telling you about, 5-story walk up, right?
Yeah, the top floor.
Yeah. And he had the whole house, of course, and
He put you on the roof?
No, we partied all throughout, but that was more private for me. And it's right around the corner from that, so it was perfect because I could stop there, ride by now they call it Cookies. Greenhouse down in the Haarlemmerstraat, and then go to the one at the red light where I meet up.
Greenhouse is your main port.
I meet people in the morning.
Nice.
I can be found there with my friends. And
nice.
whatnot. And I've done some work with Ariane over the years.
Yeah, I've never met Ariane.
Oh, he's a great guy.
Yeah, I'd love to have him on.
Yeah. I respect what he's done. That's totally.
Yeah.
Second level type stuff, you know.
No, it's crazy. Like going hunting the original phenos and all this stuff, like that's.
Yeah, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
I'm impressed by what he does. The fact that I know him and have known him for 25 years.
Yeah.
You know, and when I remind him who I am. Oh yeah, right. How you been? I saw him in Vegas at a show. He knew who I was. You know, but. I give them my shout out.
Anyone that does like,
and it's a tourist place, so I like to go and watch the tourists.
Yeah,
we sit out front with our cameras, and we're just brutal, brutal,
just commentating on the world going by.
Don't be a pretty girl and bend over in front of me, please. It's one of my biggest posts I've ever had. Live video of what was going on. It's just. Some guy brought his dog. She had to bend down to pet the dog and play with the dog. Yeah. I was just going nuts. But that's what I do. I sit on the terrace and I enjoy Amsterdam.
Yeah.
I don't, I don't need to do anything else while I'm here. I've done all the touristy things. I tell all my friends when they come for the first time, there's a bunch of things you need to do in Amsterdam.
Yeah, and once you've checked them off.
I've done them.
Yeah.
So you can meet me in the morning, we'll get high, and you can go to the museum. Yeah. And then the next day
I've never done Anne Frank's. I've never done the Heineken Museum. I haven't done tourist stuff. I'm still just going to coffee shops.
I think you can do that in any other city.
Yeah.
Amsterdam is for getting lost.
Yeah.
Sure. And that's the thing. Like
to just roll up a joint and start walking.
Floating.
Look in the windows. Look at the buildings. There's all little mad weird shit everywhere.
Yeah,
There's your museum.
Yeah,
you don't need to go in.
But I wouldn't tell you to come from the States to Amsterdam and not go to the Rijksmuseum where you're going to see the history of Europe.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like for Americans, there's no history.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We don't have things in our museum that are 1,000 years old.
More than a couple of 100 years old. And
right.
if you are, you probably took them from somewhere else. You
right.
know what I mean?
We did.
Like, yeah.
But yeah, that's so. I tell people you got to do that. You got to go to the Van Gogh Museum.
Yeah.
Why?
I haven't done that either. But
because it's the greatest of the best.
Yeah, no, that's
now,
it.
We, people from Detroit, we've got a Detroit Institute of Arts that has same quality goods.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't have the history.
It's not Amsterdam with Van Gogh.
Yeah, while you've smoked a joint outside and gone in and floating around.
Right.
No, for sure.
And there's things here that you got to do.
Yeah.
There are other things that are so touristy that
just give them a miss.
Avoid them.
Yeah, no, for
like
sure.
you don't need any waffles.
No. You
they're
can
not.
try them if you want.
They're not waffles.
No.
Not
your waffles over there are totally different. You
totally
make them
different.
fresh and all.
Right.
But like for an example, the Prostitution Museum or the Red Light Museum,
Right.
It's all bullshit.
It's,
you know what I mean?
right.
They've a couple of pictures of dildos from the 1800s or something.
I tell people, don't get sucked in by that.
Yeah.
And the example I give of not getting sucked in is you would never go to the Madame Tussauds, right? And they're like, no, I would never do that. I said, well, when you go, you pay attention as you drive by or walk by. Yeah. And you'll see a line every day out in front of this place of tourists from other parts of the world going to check this out. It's not like some Dutch people are coming in from the fields saying, hey, let's go check out this wax museum.
And that's it. It's something to do with Amsterdam. You're going to see random celebrities while you're in Amsterdam. What's that got to do with your trip there? You know
and
what I mean?
it's the same thing that it is everywhere else in the world. Just like the Hard Rock Cafe.
Yeah. When there's a city that's not much going on, then you go to Madame Tussauds. When you're in Amsterdam and you've got shit everywhere, don't waste that few hours. I've gone.
Be very
my
specific.
sister came over with my nephew, but we have to keep the kid entertained.
Right.
So we're like, Madame Tussauds, or we done fucking, they do Ripley's and all that stuff. But that's for the child, you know what I mean? If he wasn't here, we'd be just in the coffee shop smoking weed.
I'm going to the Lego store while I'm here.
Oh, yeah. I brought my nephew there as well.
My kid handed me his Lego passport and said, will you get this stamped for me?
Oh, that's amazing.
And I'm thinking, well, why don't you get it stamped? Isn't that what...
Yeah, you're meant to go and collect it yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not bringing you to Amsterdam for a while because I sit in coffee shops all day long. You won't appreciate my way of life.
Sitting outside looking in the window.
Right. And I'm not going to bring you and your mother and send you off to do...
Yeah, your own thing. If we're going
like we do at home.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily participate.
Yeah.
Because, it's a lot of walking or it's...
Yeah, no, that's
whatever.
It's hard to keep up with the
My
kids.
kid loves roller coasters, loves amusement parks.
Yeah.
I can't go on a roller coaster. I can't get slammed around like that.
So you can float around on the scooter and that's about it.
Yeah, so really, I'm going to pay $80-$90 to go in and watch you?
Sit outside.
Right. I don't need to do that. I'd rather give you the $90 and let you spend it on crap at the store.
Buy yourself something nice.
While you're there, right.
Yeah.
So, and he gets that,
Yeah.
But, I'll be in the Lego store. But one of the things I do is I try to buy my children gifts from Amsterdam when I come that are Dutch.
Yeah, something authentic.
It doesn't have to be wooden shoes.
Yeah.
Now, everybody got
a
everybody got a pair.
Yeah, that's the first trip.
All 4 kids each had their own pair. And depending on how old you were when I went, dictates what size existed in the house. Everybody's been given the slipper version of the same thing.
Yeah.
But I buy, now that my kids are a little bigger, 9 and 12, I buy T-shirts. So they each get the same shirt.
Okay,
and
matching.
And it's nice. Some sort of Dutch, like once I got the Amsterdam map.
Yeah, nice.
Or
the 3 X's or something like that.
Something that they can wear back home that won't say dope in Amsterdam.
Yeah, not a big hash sleeve.
Right.
That's half the reason behind 2120. It's a subtle stoner brand. You know what I mean? It means 420, but only if you know.
Only if you can do math.
Only if you're smart enough. You know what I mean? So it's because 420's mainstream now.
I'll tell you a story behind that one.
Okay.
You'll excuse my phone and the harmonica sound. I used to run a head shop in Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
That actually is right across the street from the Diag where the Hash Bash takes place. And I used to run the Hash Bash out of this store called Stairway to Heaven.
Oh, cool.
That was a head shop. And I had actually turned a T-shirt and poster shop that belonged to a guy my dad went to school with. So I knew him, and I said, hey, I can go make you some money because the girl that's working for you is stealing whatever little she's claiming she's bringing in.
Yeah.
I can go make some money for you. And his wife didn't want paraphernalia in there.
Okay.
I didn't care. I did it on the down low. My own stuff I bought. I put it in his showcases. I sold it. I took the money.
Yeah.
And I did that for a few years, and then he calls me one day and he says, a guy walked in my store in another city where I was and said he needed a replacement. He broke his one pipe. He shows me a pipe. He says, you selling pipes? I said, why don't you come up here? We'll talk about it. He came up and I said, listen, you'll give me 10 grand. I'll give you everything that's here. And we're the biggest head shop around.
No way. It's still going?
Oh, well, his daughter eventually closed it. He passed away. It closed a couple years ago.
Okay,
but this was
for a while.
This was 30 years ago that I was there. And, good long run.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, you were doing $100 a day. I'm doing $600 a day, and you're still doing 120, 150, 180.
Yeah.
Why? Because my people buying this are buying your T-shirts and your...
Yeah, they're here getting a few other bits while they're here.
Right.
Yeah.
I said, I'll give me 10 grand, and you can pay me on that, and I'll give you all the stuff, and you'll be who you are. Okay, great. So...
You gave them a ready-made business,
yeah,
basically.
while I'm in this business, the catalogs that we would order stickers from, all of a sudden start showing this 420. Now, I'm in tight with the people at High Times because of Hash Bash. They start writing about the High Times. I know Steve Bloom. I know Steve Hager. I remember when each started talking about it, and now there's an argument between the two of them and who exposed it and who brought it up.
On the 420?
Yeah.
Okay.
But everybody admits who started it, that it was this group of guys in San Rafael that...
I've heard the story, so that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us the original story.
That they would meet at the Pasteur statue on their campus.
Yeah.
They were high schoolers at 420.
And what was the school called again?
I don't remember.
Where did you say it was?
Oh, it's in San Rafael. San Rafael.
Okay.
And they had a name of their club, like they were a club.
Yeah.
And because I'm high, I can't remember what it was. I want to say the Warlocks, but it's not.
Okay.
That's a motorcycle club. Anyways, these cats had started this.
Yeah.
The fact that somebody might have been handing out flyers at a Grateful Dead show that said something about 420 all kind of happened at the same time as these guys being exposed to doing whatever, how it happened.
And it was just them meeting up for a joint after school.
Yeah.
That was the 420.
Well, they were going to look for this hidden gold that was supposedly buried in the mountains.
Okay.
So they would go smoke a joint, get high, and go.
That's amazing.
They already had found it.
Yeah.
Right. So my thing was, why would you put something out there, a sticker,
that exposes
on your bumper that tells everybody,
but only tells the people that know.
How long do you think it was before everybody knew?
Like, again,
okay,
it's
wait, hold on.
It's really mainstream.
But we're not worried about everybody. We're just worried about law enforcement.
I suppose, yeah.
So how long do you think it was before law enforcement?
Not long at all.
Thank you. Yeah. And my issue was there's already a number that represents marijuana.
What's that?
Ask any biker. If you ever see a biker and on his shoulder is a black 8-ball patch, you know that he's into
weed,
cocaine.
Yeah, that's why when you said 8-ball, I thought coke, and I was like, weed.
If you see a number 13 on his leather vest, well, that stands for marijuana.
What's 13 represent?
M is the 13th letter of the alphabet. I mean,
I'm going to be going up to every bike.
That makes
show me your jacket.
Well, yeah, you'll look. They'll have different pins and
I never knew 13 was weed.
Oh yeah, and to me that was brilliant. This 420 thing.
So obvious.
It was too obvious.
Yeah.
And you're promoting it, and now you're going to have a party on 420, and that killed it. Once you started doing that,
everyone knew what was going on.
And the 420 smoking that people do, it's like. Really?
Yeah.
You've been to places where at 420 people start cheering.
But at the same time, it builds that community underground.
It does. It's totally right.
It exposes some, but if the masses can get bigger than the others, you know.
The naivete works well.
Yeah, that's it. They didn't think of it, but it's...
As long as they're not smart enough to realize what they're doing. Now it's everywhere, right?
No, that's
and now it's, like, your non-smoking grandmother knows that 420 is...
That's why 2120 is going to be the new kind of code, you know what I mean? We're taking it
I
over.
like stuff like that.
Yeah. But I have to go to work soon, so I think we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much. It's been amazing to hear all your stories, man. We'll have you on. We'll get you on the live as well.
Definitely. And same, I'll get you guys on the Medical Mondays.
Yeah, that'd be amazing for
the
sure.
The podcast that we do on YouTube.
Yeah,
and,
happy to join anytime. And as I said, we're up late anyway, so we're on your time schedule more than anything else. But
Cool. Well,
it's been amazing to talk to you, man. You're a legend. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. I hate being called a legend.
Yeah,
I get it now.
Yeah,
so
you know what I mean?
I begrudgingly accept it.
Yeah. But to the fairy, thank you very much as always. If you're still watching, like and subscribe and all that bullshit. Thank you so much, man. You're a legend.